So for whoever doesn't know me, I'm Julia. I'm a professional ballerina with the Stuttgart Ballet, and today you're gonna come along with me through the journey of the pointe shoe preparation. We are going to transform the shoes from looking like this to ba-bam, looking like this. I wear a customized pair of Bloch, very solid shoes. I used to wear Freed in the past when I was in Dresden in the Semperoper. I find Bloch a stronger shoe. This way it doesn't require me to be sewing a pair of shoes every 2 or 3 days. These are the items I'm gonna use today to prepare and customize my pointe shoes. I have to make a little note about the seam cutter, which we might not use depending if I make a mistake or not, but I always like to have it in my sewing kit because it unsews very quickly old pair of ribbons and elastics. So now we're gonna start with the preparation of the pointe shoe. And before starting, I just wanna say that if you're a student, if you're just starting in ballet, or you don't have access to all the tools that I showed you, don't worry, this video can be super helpful for you. Must have, I would recommend having is needle, thread and scissors, and elastics and ribbons, of course. The rest are just to make the shoe more comfy, more pretty, and it's part of my personal preparations. Maybe some steps that I'm gonna tell you you can skip because they're gonna actually make the shoe softer. So if you can afford just to get one pair per month or per 3 months or per 6 months, then some steps you can just skip, go through and watch the next part of the video. So step 1, I'm actually gonna step on the box. And I'm gonna step on this part. I like them to pop, so then the box from being like this, it flattens out and then I can fit my feet and my toes better. I'm gonna step on one and step on the other. Second step, I have a very strong nail here, and this is one of the most tedious steps for me because sometimes it takes 2 seconds and sometimes it takes like 5 minutes. Let's see if we're lucky today. And I'm gonna take this nail out because otherwise for me the sole is too hard. And this is the moment where we're gonna use the pliers to try to take the nail out. And sometimes I also need this. Let's see. Good luck, Julia. Actually, not too bad. It didn't take so long. Wonderful. Great start. The next step, which I like to do, is to cut this inner sole just a little bit so it can bend with my arch better. As I mentioned earlier, Bloch are really hard, so I really need to do this step, otherwise when I put the pointe shoe on, it's just gonna stay straight. And I need the sole to bend a little bit better with my arch. And I found for myself that this is the right height, but of course every foot is different. I have colleagues that cut from the outside, so it helps them also bend a bit better. There are people cutting everything off, there are people also not doing anything. Maybe if you're a student, you can also just bend the top part with your hand to start with instead of cutting directly. You can also try, because in some cases it makes the shoe last longer. The better it fits to your foot, maybe the longer it stays. Always be careful when you use these tools, of course. And that's it. It's actually what I took out. As you can see, it bends better. Next step, a colleague of mine taught it to me recently and I love it. My dear friend Eva showed me this trick. I used to put tape, sometimes like putting kinesio tape that you place here and it pulls up, also works. So I was doing that most of the time. I'm gonna use the glue. And use this clip, which I found in Bauhaus here in Germany. Let them rest like that. So then the glue can nicely work. Next steps, I'm gonna do the darning. So this way this glue can take some time to do its work. And the darning is, I find it really fun. And what is the darning? I'm gonna show you right now. Why do we do the darning? So some shoes come with the tip a bit rounded. If it's rounded, then it creates a bit of instability. And we already have such a small place to balance on Pointe. So we wanna create as much space as possible and as much stability as possible. And even a couple of millimeters make the difference. So the darning helps on stability for sure. It gives you a feeling of being more grounded and more stable and rooted to the floor. But also, one, helps the tip of the pointe shoe last longer somehow. And second, it avoids the shoe from slipping too much on the floor. I'm gonna go around once, making a series of knots. And then I'm gonna go around a second time, but without knots. You need a very long thread. Place the needle, so it's underneath one circle, and then I hold it with the thumb, I pull it, and ta-da, magic. This process of pointe shoe preparation normally takes around 1 hour. I try to do it during working time, so during rehearsals, but most of the time I have to do it in the evening, maybe while I call a friend, while I watch a movie, and sometimes it can be very relaxing, but sometimes when you're very tired and you have a lot of things to do, it can really feel like homework. I have colleagues and friends that sew every 2 days, especially when we have ballets like Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty. And this can take a lot of mental time, mental preparation. So the first circle is almost done. With some pointe shoes, I would go around with knots twice, but this shoe is very stable, so I don't need to do that. Also, it came to my mind now, instead of this thimble for sewing, you can use also a TheraBand. So let's pretend this is a TheraBand, a piece of TheraBand of course, and then you pull. And this is a step that I would recommend students or people that started ballet and maybe they're not professionals, I would recommend doing. You just need a thick thread and a thick needle, and I really feel it makes the shoe last longer and it gives you a very nice feeling. So this is a yes for students. So I'm gonna show you. I went around. Now I'm just gonna close and cut, do a couple of knots. Why not? I cut this extra thing. Yeah, that's it. This is the final look. As you can see, there is no darning in here. So yeah. The next step is very personal and is a trick to decrease the material on the side, which makes a better line for the foot. As you can see, the shoe is pretty beautiful, but sometimes when I then add elastics and everything, it creates like a bit of extra material when I move. I have friends pinching and literally just sewing through the side of the pointe shoe. So actually this is a great step. If your shoes feel a bit big, then you can try to do something like that. Or I have even some colleagues, and I tried it out but it didn't work for me, that sew this part. If the shoe is too big, then just go up and down, up and down. But I'm just gonna take a couple of millimeters, and I took my thinner cotton thread. I'm gonna do a knot in the inside so we don't see it in the outside. And you can always use floss, as this is also very resistant. A bit slippery sometimes, for knots especially, but very resistant. Step is done. Now, next step is sewing the elastics. I like the elastic to be crossed. I have a friend that doesn't use elastics, and I always wonder how she dances without the fear of the shoe slipping out of her heel. Cut 4 parts. I personally use this elastic, which they stopped producing. Oops. So if you have any elastic recommendations, actually, please comment below. Let me know what you use, because I'm in search. I'm looking for new elastics. I also use Repetto elastics, which are quite good, but these somehow I used to love them. If you use very nice elastics, they're strong, they're good quality, and you like them, comment below so I can actually check some other brands and some other types out. I have this habit of sewing them from the outside, because some years ago I used to sew them from the inside, but I would get blisters. If you're a student, maybe your teacher won't like the look of sewing the ribbons or the elastics outside, and once you become a professional ballet dancer, you can prepare your shoes how you want. I have some friends that sew it more inside, but I really like to pull really from the back of the heel. The side where I'm gonna sew the other edge of the elastic. In my case, I'm gonna sew it just after the middle line, because I like to have a nice support across my arch. Perfect. Here we are. So elastics are on. Next is ribbons. Another chapter. Since I think 1 season or 2 seasons, discovered these beautiful elastic ribbons, which are actually an in-between from the satin ribbon, which are the soft but not elastic ribbon, and the super thin ribbons, which are super elastic, that a lot of Paris Opera ballet dancers use. And those elastics give the look of, those ribbons, sorry, give the look of almost not having a ribbon, which I love when I see videos of this pointe shoe and almost it feels like there is nothing on top of the arch. But those for me are too thin. One for the right, one for the left. I like to go around twice. It just gives me more space to then hide the knot. Okay, outside and inside. The outside one is slightly longer in my case, depends how you wrap it around your ankle. Burn the tips of the ribbons so they don't sfilacciano. I don't know in English. They don't break down. Sfilacciano is in Italian. I like to sew it from the outside. For my arch, this is the perfect position, but I learned a wonderful trick they teach in school or they teach you in the ballet shop. It's wonderful for beginners and to start figuring out where you want to sew your ribbon. You fold it, then with the pen you just go through where the shoe falls. You will have these 2 lines, and you're gonna sew along this diagonal that was naturally created. And this way is also a great way to sew ribbons for support. Double knot. And the shoe is almost done. Yay! Great. And then I like to draw like a flower, a heart, a smiley face, just because this way I can pair them up. For example, this could be 2 suns. I'm gonna draw a sun. So this is gonna be a sunny pointe shoe for a cloudy day. So as I use them, I like to think, oh yeah, the sun pointe shoes are a bit harder because they're newer, and maybe the heart pointe shoes are a little bit softer. I use them for that rehearsal. I remember how they feel. So it's a sign for me to recognize them. Different pairs at the same time. This way the shoes last way longer, because I use 1 pair for class, 1 pair for rehearsal, and maybe another pair for another rehearsal where the shoes required to be softer. It really depends. So I rotate them, and this way they can dry up and they can rest. Next step, I think it would be the cutting of the outer sole. But if you're a student and you don't have so many pointe shoes, you can skip this step. I recently do the whole thing because sometimes this part in Bloch doesn't bend so easily, and it could look that you're not pointing your feet even though you're pointing your feet. Be careful, please. Next steps are just gonna be spraying a little bit the top part, the box. I like to do that before class. This part then can adapt better to the shape of your foot. These are my shoes, almost ready to go and to be worn and to be shaped. Now, I normally hammer here and here. It would be less loud when I jump. It gives me a better feeling when I dance because I can feel the floor better. Here we are! Ta-da! If you don't know the art form so much, you might be wondering why so much work and why we don't get the shoes already prepared, but this is because every dancer does a very different preparation to their shoes, because it would be wonderful to just make an order and get them like that to save hours of work. Also, depending on the repertoire or depending on how your ankle feels, sometimes you do different adjustments to your own shoe. So this is why it makes such a big transformation to our shoes. But yeah, this is one shoe ready.